Guys, I'm so thankful. Thank you. Thank you. What a blessing. Look at your neighbor. Say, you look better than I do. Look back. Say, you're right. Guys, I'm excited to be here today, and I'm going to jump straight into the information. Guys, the information that I have today for you, if you adopt it, can literally change your entire business. You can absolutely explode in momentum with what I'm going to walk you through today. And you know, I really just want you to understand the season of time we're in. How many from this morning, just the information you've seen today, you realize what a season ACN is in? How many realize that this can be everything you want it to be for you and your family? How many know there's a difference between wanting ACN to work and needing ACN to work? How many need ACN to work today? What I'm going to share with you is a leadership topic that if you adopt it, you can see massive explosion. You've heard that ACN, that 2018 starts today. That we have a 30-day window to begin and get a head start on 2018. And to do that, I'm going to share with you my story real briefly, and then I'm going to talk to you about building your business through the holidays. In my opinion, the greatest leaders in ACN are found during the holidays. You see, I know that there's many RVPs and SVPs in this room that signed up in the month of December. Let me give you a couple of facts. My RVP, Regional Vice President Randy Lowry, signed up in December. He's got Jeremy Reed about to hit RVP in the next week or so, who signed up at the 1st of January. You have Platinum Regional Vice President Todd Stottlemyre signed up in December. Half of my regional directors signed up in December or January. Can we agree? Facts tell. Right? So understand what we're talking about today is what to do when you leave this arena. What to do when you walk out of this arena on Sunday afternoon to ignite your business. And guys, my story real briefly is in 2009, January, I had a gentleman come over to my office and pitch me on ACN. How many have seen some good ACN presentations? How many have seen some bad ACN presentations? This was one of those. And what happened about halfway through the presentation, I got up and walked out and I said, quote, I don't do MLM. How many know there's some people out there with an old mindset? How many know there's some people out there that live in a new world, and a new economy that are holding on to the old mindset? See, when I was 16 years old, I was walking through Walmart. And I remember a guy walked up to me and he said, what are you doing with your life? I'm like, well, I'm walking through Walmart. And then tomorrow I'm going to high school. And he said, well, let me show you. So he took me to Wendy's and he started drawing circles. And he started talking to me about a network marketing company. And I'm like, I don't want anything to do with what this guy is trying to sell me. And I left, and I had an old mindset. So when this guy showed up in my office in January 2009, all I thought was what happened when I was 16. How many know some people who are jaded about network marketing because they talked to somebody who didn't know what they were doing? Guys, that's what happened in January. But guys, my life changed in 2009. My businesses that I ran successfully for many years fell apart. When the economic collapse and the financial collapse happened in the United States, we lost just about everything we had in 6 months. Let me tell you something I've never told in a training like this. Guys, I bought a property for $730,000. I put $250,000 of my own money down, and I had to short sell it for $370,000. Let me tell you something, that was the moment in my life where I said something's wrong here, but let me tell you, had that not happened, I would have missed this. Because I realized, I came to the end of myself and I said, I can't have an old mindset in a new economy. And then guess what, a buddy of mine called me and invited me, he said, Michael, do you look at other ways of making money? I said, who doesn't? He said, I need you to come to my house and take a look at an opportunity. And you know what, I had questions, I had voices in my head, and I had to set that aside. And I went to his house in December of 2009, December 8th, and I sat down in a home meeting on the front of the couch, and in walked Senior Vice President Michael Crowder. And I remember when he walked in, he started talking, and I started listening. And I'm like, I don't know what this guy has, but I want it. I want it. And I was sitting there, guys, it was Christmas time. There were Christmas trees. There was music playing. It was an environment where, can we agree, it's a social season. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, what he has, I want. I walked up to him, I said, what do I need to do? He said, you need to fill your living room with people. You need to put as many people in front of me as you can, as fast as you can. I said, but next week's Christmas. He said, perfect. That's the best week to build ACN. Now, a lot of people would say, hold on a second. Christmas is a time where people are busy. But I was a business owner. What do business owners do at Christmas? Make money. I'm like, bring it on. And he said, how many people do I need in my, I said, how many people do I need in my living room? He said, 30. I said, you can count on it. And I started inviting. Do you know there were people that told me they couldn't come because they had a Christmas party? Do you know what I told them? This is more important. Come to this, then go to the Christmas party late. Because I had to win. I didn't have a choice. I needed ACN. And I had 58 people tell me they were coming. Do you know why I had 58 people tell me they were coming? Because I called more than 58 people. I called until I had enough that I knew that 30 people would be in my living room. And when Senior Vice President Mike Mazer walked in, December 17th of 2009, I had over 40 people in my living room. We had 27 guests. We signed up 10 people on the spot, 7 more before Christmas, 17 people. Now, why do I tell you that? Because let me share something with you. During this season, the serious people come out. You don't get the fluff at Christmas time. You don't get the fluff during the holidays. You get people who mean business. People who come out and take a look at the opportunity around the holidays, guess what? They're paying attention, right? Guess what happens January 1st? Resolutions. So you give them an opportunity, they lean into a resolution, you have momentum in the beginning of the year. If you take the time off, if you don't work in December, you have to begin in January to build momentum in the greatest time in ACN, and you miss it. Why do I tell you that? Because this is the season. It's time for a breakthrough. How many of you want a breakthrough in your business? Write this down if you're taking notes. If you're not taking notes, start taking notes. Write down tunnel vision. You see, working now, booking a home meeting, getting started right, getting your business moving today, right now, in the holiday season, and then applying what I'm going to teach you over the next few minutes can create massive momentum for you and your family. And come February in Charlotte, North Carolina, you could have an army in that arena of people who've never heard of the ACN blessing right now. And guys, you have to have tunnel vision. What does that mean? You have to become fanatical about PBRs. You have to become fanatical. That's what I did. See, when I got started, I worked directly with Senior Vice Presidents Michael and Patrick Mazer. Let me tell you something. All I knew was what? PBRs. I would call Mike Mail, like, listen, I got a problem with this or blah, blah. He's like, how many PBRs do you have? I'm like, this many. He's like, it's not enough. The problem doesn't matter. Book meetings. Right? Why? Because it was fanatical. I focused. I came out of the holidays. We had that big meeting, and here's what happened. You know, first of all, our system says every home meeting is going to yield an IBO. Every home meeting. So can we agree, in business, systems are important? Right? People buy McDonald's. Why? Because they don't have to learn how to cook. They buy business in a box. It costs them a couple of million. But guess what? They follow the instructions. They make a profit because it works. It's the same thing here. Our system says one PBR coached the right way will yield one IBO. I told Mike Mazer, I'm like, I have 17 people that signed up for my PBR. He says that means over time you're going to have 16 meetings where no one signs up. I said, okay, the system is predictable. I'm going to trust the process. My first home meeting, we had 10 people sign up on the spot. Guess what I did with them? PBRs. The second week, I did a second home meeting, and I had 10 people do PBRs. So my second week in ACN, I had 11 home meetings in my team. Guess what that yielded? 11 IBOs. The next week, I had 20 home meetings. That yielded 20 IBOs. Think about that for a second. Now watch this. From that moment in about January or February, I came to my first national convention. I brought 21 people with me to my first national convention. Senior Vice President Michael Crowder said, all that matters from the PBRs. PBRs feed the Saturday training. The Saturday training feeds the National Convention. The National Convention is where the magic happens. The holidays feed you into the first National Convention of the year. I said, I'm all in. So I came out of that event. March 17th, we hit team coordinator. By March 20th, we had 39 home meetings a week in our team. What does 39 home meetings a week yield? 39 IBOs. What do 39 IBOs go out and acquire? Customers. Can we agree 39 people can acquire customers faster than I can acquire customers? That's a system. By April, we had 50 PBRs. By June, we had 59. Now let me tell you a quick story. Here's one thing I love about business. Within the numbers, you'll find the leaders. It's not your job to try to make someone that's a leader. It's your job to move through the numbers until you find the leader. And let me tell you about a home meeting I did. It was in a little town called Ridgeland, South Carolina. Population of the front 3 rows. And I remember I did a meeting. It was 4 hours from my house. 4 hours. I drove down. I did a meeting. There was no one signed up, but there was a guy there named Hal. And Hal told me, he said this, and I'm not gonna, you think I'm country. You think you can't understand me. I couldn't understand Hal. Hal said, I got 2 major problems. I said, well, what are they? He said, number 1, I ain't got no money. And number 2, I ain't got no credibility. And I went, well, great. Nice to meet you. And I got in my car and I drove 4 hours home. What was I thinking? If Hal gets in, I got to go back. And so I remember Hal called me the next week, and here's what Hal said. Michael, I'm ready to get started. And I asked him a question. I said, how did you get the money together? He said, I sold 10 cans, used batteries and scrap metal to get $500. Now, personally, I didn't want to sign him up. I'm not in the business of signing people up. I'm in the business of helping people win. I'm in the business of helping people fulfill their dream. I'm not in the business of apping people up. Is that okay? And so what happened is Hal said, he said, I'm going to do a home meeting. I said, okay. So I got in my car. I said, put me in front of everybody. I drove 4 more hours back down there to Hal's meeting, and there were 2 people there. One guy was 90-something years old, and I thought he was dead the whole time I was talking. And it wasn't like this. It was like, he's drooling, right? And so the other guy, the other guy's name was John. John's like, I'm all in. I'm signing up right now. He apped up on the spot. I'm driving back. I got John, the business owner. He quit an hour later. I'm like, I just drove 8 hours, and then Hal called me. And here's what Hal said. Please don't quit on me. He said, if you don't quit on me, I'll never quit on you. And so I said, okay. I need you in Charlotte Saturday for training. 2 reasons. Number 1, you need training. Number 2, you need to see how far it is. And so I drove back down there. There were 10 people at the home meeting, 10, and I signed up a guy named Bill. Now, what am I doing, guys? This all came from the holidays. I'm driving through the living rooms to find the leader. I signed up Bill. Bill came to training. I did a PBR. I drove back down there 8 hours. Anybody getting the drift here? This was not I want ACN to work. What was it? I need ACN to work. I went down at Bill's meeting. I signed up a guy named Scott Richardson. Scott's one of the top RDs in ACN, has been, and guy's an incredible leader. But why don't I tell you this? Through Scott, we did a huge home meeting. Fast forward to that home meeting, there's a guy named John. John had sold his company for nearly $80 million. Can we agree he didn't need ACN? But the most successful people see ACN. And so I'm sitting in his living room. It's a true story, guys. You can't make stuff like this up. And the guy looked at me, had a legal paper. We were finished with he had a legal pad, and he looked at me and he says, I'm gonna make a phone call for you, son. I said, okay. And he picks up the phone and he says, I'm sending this kid, he called me a kid. He was 80, so I guess that's okay, right? He said, I'm sending this kid, Michael Crowder, to meet with you on Monday morning. I want you to meet with him. And he hung up, and I said, who is that? He said, it was the governor. And I went, you're kidding. He said, I don't kid, wear a suit. So now, I'm not the biggest advocate of one-on-ones, but I went and did one. And so I drove and I had a suit on. I pull into the mansion and there's a guy at the guard shack and he looks down at me, he's huge, and he says, Mr. Crowder. I said, yes, sir. He says, the governor's waiting on you. And I went, that's the coolest thing anyone's ever said to me in my life. So I walk in and the governor walks in. Long story short, he says, I have about 15 minutes. Well, back then we didn't sell energy, but on our presentation it said future services energy. And he stopped me there and he said, what does this mean? I said, I have no clue. I've been in the business for 5 months. Here's what I do know. I'm excited. He's like, let me tell you about energy. And he spent an hour telling me why our company was the future. And he said, I like this. Hang on, because you're going to want to clap in a minute. He said, I like this, but I need to do some research. Now, can I tell you something? The governor's research is different than your broke brother-in-law's research. 2 weeks later, he calls me on my cell phone. I was walking out of a PBR. And I looked down, I went, no kidding. And I answered, and he says, I just got the report back. And he said, you can quote me on this. That's why I'm quoting him on this. He said, top notch in every category. He said, the legal team released me to sign up. I'm in. And why do I tell you that? Why do I tell you that? I tell you that for 2 reasons. Number one, it's because I drove through the holidays, or I would have never been in that situation. The second reason I tell you that is, guess who's downline the governor's in? House. You can't make stuff up like that. Only in ACN. Why do I share that with you? Because in order to do that, you have to go through the numbers. I've got so many great stories, and there's so many fun stories and funny, all these things when you're going through living rooms and you're driving through the holidays and you're driving the miles. How many times did I drive 8 hours to find that team? Guys, Hal became the #1 executive team leader in North America within this company. The gentleman who said he didn't have any credibility, the guy who sold tin cans. Why? Because I made a decision to put my head down during the holidays and go to work. You want to see what my calendar looked like? By September of 2010, we were doing 100 home meetings a week. By September 10th. Why? Because once you start a snowball, you can't stop it if you push it down the right hill. But what happened? With 100 home meetings, we were out of control. August the 28th, here's my calendar. 84 PBRs. How about this one? September 22nd. Guys, September 17th of 2010, we had 94 home meetings. Now here's where I want you to shift your mindset a little bit. I told you I'm gonna mess with you a little bit today. Watch this. September 22nd, Wednesday night at 6:30, we had 22 home meetings. All of this came from my home meeting in December. How many home meetings could I speak at 6:30 on September 22nd? What did that mean I needed? 21 more speakers. See, leaders will find themselves. When you put a clipboard in somebody's hand, they will become something that they are not today. But if you try to do it and you think you have to have your RD or RVP or SVP doing your presentations, you are stunting your ACN growth. I had a guy named Richie. Richie was one of these, he had a guy in this team, one of these meetings was his. And Richie had been in the business for about a week. And I don't even think he was an ETT, he was qualified. I don't even remember if he was qualified. And Richie had one person in his team, and his meeting was 6:30 on this Wednesday night. And guess what? I wasn't doing it because I had 3 people on the list. But Richie calls me about 30 minutes before the meeting. He's like, what time will you be here? I went, Richie, you're up. He started crying. literally crying. And I remember, he said, pray for me. He was scared. I said, Richie, there's 3 people coming. He said, I'll do it. So I prayed for him. We hung up. He calls me about an hour later, 2 paid applications. 2 paid applications. Lady comes up to me, one of the 2 comes up to me on Saturday at training, and she looks at me and she says, I hope I don't offend you. I said, you can't offend me. She said, but can Richie do my presentation? Let it sink in, guys. See, the way you build momentum is you don't book enough work just for you to do. You create so much momentum that you're almost out of control. That's how you build massive momentum with an ACN. And let me bring it home. You are 1 whole meeting away from explosion. You're 1 whole meeting away from explosion. And in my experience, doing this for 8 years, there have been seasons where I relaxed during the holidays. There have been seasons where I really didn't do a lot during the holidays. And it took me so much time to get my ACN feet back under me in January. But there's been seasons where I put my head down and I went to work and I did everything I could to make this thing happen. And those were the biggest years we've ever had. In 2010, we qualified over 1,000 IBOs my first year in ACN because I started December 8th of 2009. I did the whole meeting December 17th. Fast forward, we had 2 snowed out Saturdays in January in North Carolina where it doesn't snow. We had Christmas on a Friday because all I knew was working in and around the holidays. And so here's why I share that with you. Fast forward 3 years from when I got an ACN. I did a meeting in Philadelphia, Tennessee. Gotcha. I was waiting on that one. And you can't get to Philadelphia, Tennessee from here, right? But there were 20 people in there, and none of them moved. Now, this is the third piece here is you understanding that it doesn't matter who speaks, but you as a leader, you need to go through the living rooms that you don't want to go through. Platinum Regional Vice President Joe Goodyear's in the room. Tremendous leader. He was the only guest at the home meeting he was at. What if the RD or TC had said, you know, it's only 1, I'll let somebody else handle it? They might have missed one of the greatest leaders in ACN. Why do I share that with you? Because I went to this meeting in Philadelphia, Tennessee. There were 20 people there. And I do the presentation, and I stand up, and the wife's name is Shelly, and I call her Kelly. That's terrible. But no one corrected me. No one even moved. Everybody just went. So I do the presentation in like 5 minutes, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. Right? I go to the kitchen. I realize I left my jacket in the living room. So I go back in the living room, and I got my jacket, and there's a couple sitting on the couch, and they're both taller than me, the man and the woman. And they're not moving. They're just both sitting there staring forward. And I said, okay, I'm going to ask, do you see an opportunity for yourself? He went, yep. Like, okay. I said, can you come to training? Yep. Great. Thanks, nice to meet you. I didn't even follow up. Saturday, when I did my training, guess who's sitting on the 3rd row? I said, after we're finished, you ready to get started? Yep. Can you come to the convention? Yep. It's true. He brings 3 people to convention in Charlotte. Now watch this. You think that's the good part. Meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting we did. We met a guy in Oklahoma named Gunner who signed up a guy in Alabama named Devin. And on December the 10th of 2012, Devin signed up Randy Lowry. But if you want to find hungry people, you want to find successful people, you want to find the greatest leaders in ACN, fill your living room next week and watch what happens. That's how this business works. You see, everything we're talking about today comes down to leading by example. Your job is to lead by example. What can you do leaving here today? What can you do to ensure your success when you leave here this weekend? It's have a home meeting booked. Last night in our team event, where's Team Alive? We booked just shy of 100 home meetings for next week. So 5 days leaving this convention, what's going to happen in their businesses? They're going to explode. If someone said, well, I just want to wait till the first week of January, not happening. Why? Because today is the day. So you may not have the biggest home meetings in the holiday season. Is that okay? You may not be able to get the biggest groups there. It's okay. This is leadership. But here's what I know. The people in the room are the best concentration of quality and excitement and interest you will ever have. If you put your head down now and you feed those people into your Saturday trainings over the holidays, you will be amazed at what happens come January when everyone makes a resolution. Because how many know what happens in January? Gym memberships triple, right? Because everybody's talking about what they're going to do. Everybody's talking about how great the year is going to be. And 60 days later, they're back to their old mindset and their old habits and their old ways. But in ACN, 555 equals $500 right now in the month of December. How many understand what you have a hold of today? So let me give you some advice. Number one, fill your living room with people. Book a PBR. Before you leave this event today, text your team coordinator the date of your home meeting next week. Do it, fill your living room, do one the following week, do one the following week, do one the following week, until you find the people who push you to regional and senior vice presidents. Guys, thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure. God bless you. Everybody have a great day.